Cabinet meeting on Wednesday the 24th of February 2021. Please note this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the authority. So I'll move straight on to agenda item number 1, and that is, are there any apologies for absence?
Chair, no apologies for absence have been received.
Thank you. And on to agenda item number 2, declarations of interest. And members, please remember that you are reminded of any personal responsibility to declare any personal and prejudicial interests. Are there any? No?
Yeah, my hand was up there, I think.
I can't see a hand up, Councillor Barry. Okay, Councillor Barry?
Okay, so item 6, Chair, the declaration and 4.8 of the report, it talks about taxi infrastructure. I've got a different operation from Hackney, but I think they better declare an interest, and they talk about updating taxi fleets, which again, I'm not going to take advantage of, but I'll declare an interest and I'll step away in the interests of security.
Thank you for that, Councillor Barry. I'll just remind you prior to that agenda then as well to leave the virtual room, turn off your camera and turn off your mic, okay? And then we'll have the opportunity to invite you back when it's appropriate. So thank you for that. Okay, I'll move on then to agenda item number 3 under strategic, and that is the Revenue Budget Monitoring 2020-21 Quarter 3 report. And I understand that Councillor Barry, you were taking us through this one.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Revenue Budget Monitoring 2021 Quarter 3. The Revenue Budget Quarter 3 stands at a surplus of 73,000 as at the 31st of December 2020 at the 9-month stage, and has been considered a budget board on the 10th of Feb. When you consider Quarter 1 end of June, we were discussing a deficit of 1.166 million. Then at Quarter 2 at the end of September, we'd reduced that to 504,000, and now we're discussing a £73,000 surplus. It's testimony to the authority's governance, finances, and the improving efficiency measures that the authority are going through. Although there are deficits within various departments, the performance of social services and the projected £1.3 million of COVID monies from the hardship fund we've achieved in the third quarter. There is a slim surplus, as I mentioned. The summary of the revenue budget monitoring statement is Appendix 1, budget environments Appendix 2, major variances Appendix 3. Recommendations, Chair, at 2.1 to 2.4. 2.1, the revenue budget monitoring report for 2021 financial year based on the third quarter projections be accepted. 2.2, budget environments outlined in Appendix 2 be approved. 2.3, managers to urgently address projected budget deficits within the respective areas, identifying all possible remedial measures to offset projected deficits be approved. And finally, 2.4, managers to continue to monitor all revenue budgets and immediately notify Chief Finance Officer with potential financial difficulties be approved. I move, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Barry. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, Chair, I'm happy to second, and in doing so, I wanted to commend the Chief Finance Officer, officers in accountancy, and all officers across the council, as Councillor Barry's outlined. Very impressive position in respect of a net revenue surplus of £73,000. It would be remiss of me to not take this opportunity as the Cabinet Member for Social Services also to commend the Chief Officer for Social Services for the performance in respect of a position in regards to the variances of a projected underspend of £505,000 across social services. It is an up and down when you look at the detail in the report. Obviously, there are underspends and there are surpluses that balance the budget. But to reassure members and obviously the public, anybody that's watching this, in social services, we're not going to rest on our laurels. There is still work in areas of our budget, particularly around look after children residential. There are plans ahead to look at that. Out of the Closer to Home project that the Head of Children's Services is working on with her team must be commended. We'll watch this space, but an overall, Chair, very impressive performance for the authority.
Thank you, Councillor Davis, and thank you for those remarks that you've made as well. OK, colleagues, are there any questions in relation to this report? No? OK, are there any comments? Councillor Geraint-Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's a real good report, positive report. You know, we've got 4 or 5 weeks left now of this financial year, and I know our managers and our officers are keeping a close look on their budget lines and keeping the reins on. But you know, it'd be remiss of us, I think, not to realise, you know, we're in this COVID pandemic time, and that area in particular, where Councillor Davis mentioned, children's services, it's a very volatile area and things can change very quickly. So I think we just need to be aware of that, and just in case any issues come up between now and the end of the financial year.
Thank you for that, Councillor Thomas. Are there any other comments? No? OK, in that case then I shall take it to the vote. Would all councillors in agreement with the recommendation please raise your hand on the screen? OK, monitoring officer, I believe that's carried. OK, thank you, councillors. If you could now take your hand down, just bear with me while I do the same. OK, agenda item number 4 then is the capital budget monitoring report 2020, apologies, to 21, quarter 3. And Councillor Barry, I believe you're taking us through this one.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you, Chair. Capital budget monitoring 2021 quarter 3. This report, as with the revenue report, covers the period April 2020 to 31st of December 2020 for both core and externally funded capital programmes. Our current position is an underspend of 532,000 on the core funded projects and just 35,000 underspend on the externally funded projects by the end of quarter 3. We've incurred 6.268 million on the 31st of December 2020 on core funded projects, with details of the underspend at Appendix 4. We have incurred 10.034 million on externally funded projects to the 31st of December 2020, detailed at Appendix 2. We have secured additional net 905,000 that is detailed at Appendix 5. We are projecting a 28.714 million spend for 2021, with an underspend on both core and external funded capital projects of 567. I'll take you to the recommendations, Chair, which are 2.1 to 2.4. 2.1, the capital monitoring report for the third quarter of 2020-2021 be noted. 2.2, the budget amendments for core funded projects as outlined at 4.1 be approved. 2.3, variances to the budgets as per paragraph 4.2 be noted. 2.4, the requirement for officers to continually rigorously monitor budget to ensure that expenditure remains within approved budgets be noted also, Chair. So I move that report.
Thank you for that, Councillor Barry. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'm happy to second, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Davis. OK, any questions? Any observations? Councillor Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think, you know, I can't let this moment go by without obviously, again, commending the Chief Finance Officer, but also making a particular mention to the Chief Accountant. She does an absolutely sterling job of actually managing and monitoring this capital budget on a day-by-day, week-by-week, month-by-month basis and reporting that back on a regular slot to budget board, but not just to the officers in accountancy, but actually to officers across the authority who should be really proud of what we achieve through our capital programme, the significant difference we make to the county borough and the demands that have been placed upon us during COVID. For a small authority, I think we do absolutely amazing. We punch well above our weight in terms of the value added that we bring to improving Merthyr Tydfil. So I think we should all, officers and members, be really proud of this programme and what we achieve with the capital budget. So, da iawn and diolch yn fawr I pawb. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Councillor Geraint Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. It's a very important sum of money, this, isn't it? Our capital programme. It's how we develop Merthyr Tydfil going forward. Leader, you and I went to the new bus station earlier this week, and we saw that impressive building now coming towards its end, and hopefully will be open in the next month or two for the public to see it in its full glory. And I think, and Councillor Davies mentioned it there, our managers do a sterling job, with the budgets that they have, the limited budgets that they have, really, and how they produce such great schemes for the people of Merthyr, especially through the last year, through this COVID pandemic, for the work still carries on. And I know that the money that we haven't spent this year due to delays will be rolled on into next year. We'll carry on these great projects going forward.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Barry.
If everybody's finished their chair, I'd just like to add, really, that we do like to roll out the chief accountant on occasion from keeping her in the shadows, and she does do an excellent job. I think just a final comment from me, Chair, in that of all years, the capital programme going into 2021 and further is vital for the local business economy, to be honest, because it's this capital programme and the phenomenal amounts of money we're spending in this local area will allow businesses to start money spinning in the economy, and let's get this recovery underway. And I think there are many eyes on us in terms of our local community and residents who are looking for those capital projects to be pushed forward, and more to come, hopefully, in that we are the sort of the connection between that money coming from central government and getting that money going. The grants that have been paid so far are only a holding position. The capital programme really is the thing that's really going to get the economy going. It's just a comment really on how important it is in the coming year and the future years that we really concentrate on bringing the very best capital programmes for a number of reasons, not least for our business community. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Barry. And as leader, I obviously echo the sentiments that you've all conveyed this afternoon with regards to that, and certainly what you just said, Councillor Barry, in relation to that capital programme moving forward. So thank you for that. If there aren't any other further comments, then I'll take it to the vote, colleagues. So would all councillors in agreement with the recommendation please raise their hand on the screen? Okay, I think that's unanimous, so thank you for that. If you can now lower your hand, just bear with me while I do the same. Okay, thank you. I now move on to agenda item number 5, and that was the public spaces protection orders restricting access over 5 public highways in Merthyr Tydfil through the installation of gates. Councillor Barry, I believe it's back to you again.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Originally, I wasn't going to do this report because it affected me. Now it's just areas around where I live, so I'm clear to sort of present the report. And it's a report really that myself and my ward colleagues have been involved in from the offset, really, in terms of walking the streets with the police. But this is we'll have to have a word with some of our officers in terms of our headings for these reports, because this is so this is the public spaces protection orders restricting access over 5 public highways in Merthyr Tydfil with the installation of gates. Now that's a typo. So what happened to Ali Gate? And I was far happier with that, to be honest. There we are. I'm really pleased to be bringing a report anyway, Chair. It covers the town ward and deals with some real impactive issues for our residents that they faced for some considerable time. This is a very detailed report that covers an extensive area of the town ward, specifically back lane areas that have been subject to antisocial behaviour and crime associated with persons passing through these areas, and residents had to put up with these sustained problems for far too long. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Chief Inspector Naomi Drew and Inspector Mike Ruddell and his team for the work on this. The project is a result of the South Wales Police-based application from the Safer Streets Fund, which is a Home Office grant. The fund was launched in January 2020 and has resulted in this report being in front of us for consideration today. The report seeks approval for the enhancement of 5 public space protection orders and delegated authority to the authority's senior solicitor. Section 3 talks of the appropriate legislature and rationale for the gating of these 5 alleys and the consultation process that was undertaken to inform this report. The detail of the consultation process we've highlighted in Section 4 and the responses to that consultation are in Section 5. The costs are covered by the Safer Streets Fund, as I've outlined, and are detailed in Section 9, with the continued maintenance of the gates being picked up by the authority. The orders and maps of the locations are within the appendices. Recommendations, which, like the title, are considerable. So the recommendations run from 2.1 to 2.6 or 2.1. The enactment of the Public Spaces Protection Order, referred to as the MTCBC PSPO 1 of 2021, lane adjacent to the residential premises of Upper Thomas Street, come into force on the 26th of March 2021, and which is detailed in Appendix Appendix A, be approved. 2.2, the enactment of the Public Spaces Protection Order, referred to as MTCBC PSPO 2 of 2021, lane at the rear of Upper Thomas Street and Union Street, come into force 26th of March 2021, and be detailed in Appendix B, be approved. 2.3, the enactment of the Public Spaces PSPO 3 at 2021, lane at the Lower Thomas Street and Union Street, brackets Somerset Place, to come into force 26th of March 2021, and which is detailed in Appendix C, be approved. 2.4, the enactment of the Public Spaces Protection Order 4 of 2021, lane at the rear of William Street, Mary Street, come into force 26th of March 2021, and detailed Appendix D. And 2.5, the enactment of the Public Space Protection Order, referred to as MTCBC 5 at 2021, lane at the rear of Rees Street, come into force on 26th of March 2021, which is detailed in Appendix E, be approved. 2.6, and finally, the provision of the delegated authority, the senior solicitor, to carry out all necessary publicity required by virtue of the Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act 2014 regulations be approved. Chair, I go.
Well, thank you, Councillor Barry, and certainly thank you for those tongue twisters of recommendations. And just for any members of the public, as this is a recorded meeting, those papers will be available on our website if anybody wants to go through those specific recommendations. But thank you for that. Colleagues, do I have a seconder?
Giving Councillor Barry a break so he can get his breath back, I'm happy to second the recommendations, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Colleagues, are there any questions in relation to this report? Geraint Thomas.
I was going to give him the clapping emoji then, because I think he done that so well, you know, but I just want to check that he said every word properly in that report. And has he got to do it again? That's my first question. And my second question is, you know, obviously, you know, this is a great project, you know, and it really will safeguard a lot of the houses around the Town Ward area. Obviously, there are going to be some costs for the local authority to keep the gates in good working order, etc., etc. I just hope, you know, we and perhaps Councillor Barry help me with this, and we've got the budgets in place that we can do this, so you know people will know that this is going to be a long-standing protection order for them.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. In relation to the first part of your question, Councillor Barry did that quite well as he picked up the most important points of those recommendations, and we do have a public document as well. With regards to the second point of your question, Councillor Barry, did you want to answer that, or did you want a colleague to answer that? Just in relation to maintenance.
I know that there are some questions to be asked in terms of like the keys and the gates and that. But I'm assured that within the fund we've picked up all costs for those residual elements. In terms of future maintenance, I don't know whether Judith or Steve want to pick that up.
Okay, bear with me. I'm just looking for a hand up. I can see Steve Jones.
Yes, I think going forward, it'll have to be something that we shall have to include as part of the financial plans. I think it's once we know exactly what those costs are, and then we can include as part of the ongoing plans.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, Councillor Davis, you have a question?
I do. Thank you, Leader. I got a question for Alan Owen, Deputy Chief Executive. Obviously, really welcome this investment into Town Ward for alleviating schemes. Alan, obviously, you never know with the Home Office when monies potentially could be made available. And you'll recall, obviously, I'm the ward member for Penydarren and Galanacha, and we had previously under previous regeneration initiatives in my ward looked at this before. I just wondered whether there's an opportunity for us with our community safety unit to engage with members, engage with partners to identify any other potential areas of the county borough where we might be in a position, should money become available, to have spade ready on the shelf schemes that we might be able to take forward should money become available, either in a planned way or last minute moving forward.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Davis. Yes, you've brought this issue up previously. Obviously, we waited until this report went to Cabinet for approval, so the principle was approved. I'm happy to have further conversation outside this public meeting on how we do that. And going back to the maintenance point, it's not just the maintenance of the gates. We've been discussing internally as officers the coordination of the access and the keys, etc., which residents will need to have, and how that works and fits in with the town centre. Yes, thanks, Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you, Leader.
You're welcome. Thank you both. Okay, if there are no further questions, then are there any observations? No, in that case then, colleagues, I'll take it to the vote. Would all councillors in favour of the recommendations please raise their hand on the screen? Okay, I can see that's carried. Thank you. Just a reminder to lower your hand. And I'm just reminded that Councillor Andrew Barry, before I go on to the next agenda item, I believe you have a declaration of interest, so we shall see you shortly. Thank you. I'll just wait for Councillor Barry. That's okay. Okay, so the next agenda item is the Welsh Government Transport Funding Bids 2021-2022. And Councillor Geraint-Thomas, I believe you're taking this report.
I am, Chair. So the summary of the report is we've got a total of £24.362 million in bids has been submitted by Council to the Welsh Government for the Local Transport Fund, Ultra Low Emission Vehicle Transformational Fund, Resilient Road Funds and the Active Travel Fund. This will enable the development and delivery of various local and regional transportation projects. Now, in the summary, right, we have a sum of £375,000 has been bid for the completion of the construction of the new bus station. The council has also bid for £920,000 to the Resilient Road Funds, which will help mitigate any problems we have with any of our road infrastructure going forward. In addition, the council also bid for a total of £2.27 million from the Active Travel Fund 2020-21 for co-active travel work. Now, one of the major schemes that we're looking at there is an active travel route from the new rail to the new bus station and the Taff Trail, linking up to Bike Park Wales. So that's quite an exciting project. On the regional footprint, we've bid for £9.98 million on behalf of the Cardiff Capital Region's Regional Transport Authority Metro Plus programme. And also we bid for £10.817 million, again, on behalf of the Cardiff Capital Region for the Ultra Low Emission Vehicle Transformation Fund. And this is delivered on the ULEV programme, the electrification of taxis and buses, etc. So, Chair, if I can go to the recommendations. If I can get it up. My screen is popping back and forth all the time.
Not to worry. Just let me know if you're able to access them. If not, I could remind you of them. Shall I remind? There is just one recommendation, Councillor Thomas. Do you want me to read that out for you?
1 second, Chair. Yes, please. Go on then. Yes, please.
Okay, so it's the recommendation is 2.1. The funding bids identified within the report be approved. So if you would just like us to just ask us to do that.
I shall move, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thomas. With the days of digitalisation and Teams, it's about helping each other out, isn't it? So thank you for that. Do we have a seconder for that report?
Yes, Councillor Mitten, I'm absolutely delighted to second this report for Welsh Government transport funding. I think fingers, toes and everything crossed that we can secure this much needed money to build on the excellent work our officers have done to date. I think we've got probably, I would perhaps be biased in saying it, but probably the best regeneration department in local government in Wales. Projects like this that come forward show Merthyr in all its glory and put us on the map for the excellent things we do, not just for this borough, but actually acting on behalf of the Cardiff city capital region as well. I think we should, say well done to all the officers involved in this. This is Merthyr most definitely punching above its weight, and I'm absolutely delighted to second this report.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Are there any questions? No? Okay. Are there any observations in relation to the report? No? Okay, therefore, colleagues, I'll ask us to go to the vote. Again, would all councillors in agreement with the recommendations please raise their hand on the screen? Okay, that's unanimous. If you can take your hand down. And I would just like to welcome Councillor Andrew Barry back to Cabinet, please. As if by magic, he's there. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. Just bear with me while I go back to the agenda then, colleagues. We move on to agenda item number 7, and that is the, it's gone again, bear with me. The Valleys Task Force COVID recovery for smaller town centres. And Councillor Thomas, I believe you're taking us through this report.
I am, Chair. It's another real good news story for the businesses of Merthyr Tydfil and for the residents. If you recall, last month we applied for funding from the Valley Task Force COVID Recovery Fund, almost £400,000 in total, which was all approved. And we were so oversubscribed. It was amazing how many businesses applied for this money. So we took the opportunity on ourselves to go back to the Welsh Government and to see if there was any more money in that pot. And thankfully there is. So we've applied for more money, and we've been awarded another tranche of around £400,000 to support our local businesses, Chair. So it's a real good story. My screen is going crazy. Oh, I got my recommendations now, Chair, right? So on this one. So if I got the recommendations in 2.1, that the award of additional funding for the Valley Task Force COVID recovery for smaller town centres is approved, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Do I have a seconder?
Chair, again, it's our regen team are on fire at the moment, and it's another amazing report that just means that money coming into businesses at a really difficult time from obviously the Valley's Task Force COVID Recovery Fund for town centres. We can only be but good news for business at a really difficult time on top of our grants programme. We're on fire in Merthyr Tydfil in terms of the delivery and support for businesses, and I'm absolutely, really pleased to second this report.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, colleagues, any questions? No? Okay, any comments? No? Oh, quickly, 2 got in quickly. Okay, I'll go to Councillor Barry first and then Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Great report, and it is testimony to Regen. But I'd like to just say that the grants that have been given out over this last year by this authority and how the staff have performed have been absolutely exemplary. It's put us top of the tree, along with Powys, in terms of the effectiveness and efficiency of those processes we use. But certainly within Regen and where this grant has come from, the Valleys Task Force, shows that we're really on the sort of cutting edge of supporting our business economy. The issue of the extension to the grant includes some money for planning issues as well, which shows that our staff aren't just thinking that we've got to hand money out. We've got to support those businesses as well, and planning being one of those areas that tend to cause so many problems in terms of delays, particularly. You know, for us to be putting that 25,000 in and for our staff to have the awareness of including that shows why we are cutting edge at the moment, why we are top of the shop in terms of these grants and the support. But Councillor Davis is absolutely right. We're on fire at the moment, and long may it stay that way.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Councillor Hughes, I'm going to come to you next and then finish with Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I just like to echo what Andrew said, and thank Andrew, Geraint, and all the officers for all this sterling work and supporting our businesses in Merthyr. I know it's much appreciated. A lot of people have come on to me and wanted me to thank them personally and the officers. So I just commend this. Is a fantastic report.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, just 2 points from me, Chair. You know, obviously this is supporting business, not just only in the town centre, but from Ponsticketh all the way down to Quakers Yard. And it's going to give these businesses an opportunity to trade as we come out of COVID. So if we are only allowed to, you know, trade outside, the provision is going to be there for them. And also the support going back into some of the costs these businesses incurred in the early days of COVID, trying to make their businesses safe for the public to enter. So I think that's a very important issue. And the second point I want to make is, you know, the officers have given some terrific support to the businesses as they come forward with their applications, because there is an audit trail that we've got to follow for Welsh Government, and it's important that that's done properly. So yeah, it's really a good story for Merthyr Tydfil.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Okay, colleagues, if there are no further observations, then I'll take us to the vote. Would all councillors in agreement with the recommendations please raise their hands? Okay, I can see that's unanimous, so that vote goes through. I can see our monitoring officer is back. Bless her, she's had a bit of a tough time this afternoon, so hello, Caris. Okay, just bear with me a second. So we now move on to agenda item number 8, and that is a formula funding review. And that is, of course, normally my portfolio, but I'm pleased to say that my colleague, Councillor Andrew Barry, has taken this for me.
Thank you, Chair. The funding, formula funding review. The report is in line with this administration's review of effective and efficient running of the authority, and just another example of how we believe our systems can always improve. This is a joint report produced between Corporate Accountancy and Learning Educational Support Services, namely Ian Kent and Joanna Lewis, and along with, it has to be said, the leader, Sue Walker, Steve Jones, all to be congratulated on this mammoth task of undertaking and reviewing the school funding formula. Going back as far as summer term 2018, we announced a review of the funding for primary, secondary and special education, ensure a fair and equitable funding formula for the future. There have been delays inevitably because of COVID. As with any new formula, there are obviously going to be a 3-year transitional period with indicative budgets to promote effective planning. The summary of the proposed changes at primary and secondary schools can be seen at Table 1, Paragraph 5.2, and the summary of Greenfield Special School changes are outlined at Table 2, Paragraph 5.3. The consultation exercise has been outlined for both mainstream and special educational establishment, Tables 3 and 4, at Paragraphs 6.3, 6.5, and Appendices 1 and 2. Recommendations, only 2, Chair. The 2.1, the proposal to amend the funding formula allocations as outlined and detailed in 5.2, 5.3, as amended in 6.8, be approved, and 2.2, the transitional arrangements set out in 4.16 be approved. I move the report, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Do I have a seconder?
Delighted to second, Chair.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Davis. Any questions, colleagues? Any observations? Councillor Davis?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This, as Councillor Barry has said, has been a piece of work that's been ongoing for some time, obviously impacted by COVID, but yet it's still continued. I wanted to commend everybody that's been involved in it, in particular all of the schools and governing bodies and the School Budget Forum that have engaged in this. This is very much a co-produced piece of work done together with our schools and governing bodies, which sets out a fair and transparent approach to the funding formula and allocation of funds. And I think Councillor Mitten, obviously as the leader and cabinet member for education, I know you'll join me in being very proud of how well Merthyr does in terms of being in the top quartile of performing authorities for delegating to schools. I really welcome, as a former chair of governors of the special school, the work that's been done on the fit and proper appropriate funding for special school provision identified in the appendices of this report. This is excellent. This sets us on the trajectory of where we need to go, because education is a priority for this council, and getting the best outcomes, as we've outlined in our RAS, raising aspirations, raising standards strategy. The funding speaks volumes, is important, and it makes us deliver on those fantastic outcomes we need to secure for our children and young people. So an excellent report, and well done to everyone involved.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. And before I move to the vote, obviously, I echo all of those sentiments. You know, I am very proud of my portfolio, and Sue and all the guys, and Anthony Lewis, of course, and Joe and Ian. It's been a long time coming. It's been a tough piece of work, but you know, it's really is one that that I'm really, really proud of. So thank you for that. Okay, colleagues, let's take it to the vote. Would all councillors in agreement with the recommendations please raise their hand? Okay, and that is unanimous, so thank you for that. Okay, the next agenda item obviously is any other business deemed urgent by the chair. I have none. However, I must remind you all now that we move into a closed session, and therefore I need to call for a section 100, please.
I'm happy to move the section 100, Chair.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you. Can I just take that to the vote then, please? Okay, that's unanimous. Therefore, if there are any members of the public, they need to now be excluded from that. Caris, could you just double check that for me to make sure we can move on?
Yeah, I'll just make